So the question that I'm always asked by the managers when I'm saying that we need to do some due diligence about the insurance when subcontractors especially are involved is, why do we need to go through that? Why is it so important? Why is it necessarily not front and center on everybody's mind when they're doing contracts? Remember, insurance is all about where can we transfer risk? Who's best situated to transfer the risk? The position I always take is the party that's providing the service and getting paid by my client for that service should be the one that is absorbing, if not all, but most of the risk. So going through the process, if an episode occurs and we are properly documented, long-term there's a potential that the association's insurance premiums are not going to go up as much as they normally would because they're going to potentially have less insurance run losses. That's what I think all associations out there need to strive for is how do we reduce risk? You reduce risk by transferring it. So when we're dealing with insurance in a contractor's agreement, the most important language that needs to be in there is that the contractor will indemnify, defend, and hold the association harmless. That's part of the required language. The fourth part is it has to say that we'll be named as an additional insured on the contractor's insurance policy. When they ask the question, well, which portion of the policy, it's typically the comprehensive general liability. When somebody gets hurt and an attorney is engaged, that attorney's responsibility is to name in a complaint all defendants in that one suit. So anytime a vendor is using equipment or is providing personnel to do certain things and there's an injury that occurs, even if the association didn't have anything to do with it, we're going to be named. If a claim's filed, and if it's not in the agreement and it turns out we're not an additional insured on that contractor's policy, the association has to go to its own carrier for defense. That's what the insurance is there for. The position that we always take when we're looking at agreements is if you're providing a service, your service provided or caused the injury, why must we go to our own insurance carrier? As an additional insured, we have a first-party right to go to the vendor who's providing the services carrier for defense. All they're doing is just giving us the ability to be on their policy in the event that they cause an injury. When I'm working for an association, the first question I have for the managing agent on any agreement that they send over for me to draft is, will subcontractors be involved? Our agreement says you cannot have a subcontractor without the association approving it. There's a reason there to protect us. That being said, it doesn't mean that that's going to occur. So the event could occur. We never knew there was a subcontractor, and now the association finds itself going to its own carrier for defense. So it becomes really important, again, because we don't have what we call in this business privity with that contractor. We don't have a direct line to that subcontractor. The way we get there is we need to tell the prime contractor, the one that we have the direct line with, we need to see what's called your master sub-agreement. That master sub-agreement needs to have certain language in there similar to our agreement with you, prime contractor, that says the subcontractor will indemnify, defend, and hold you, prime contractor, harmless, and also the association. Most associations use landscapers. What we're finding over the last few years is a lot of these landscapers do not use their own people for chemical applications. They will contract with another vendor to do that. So imagine we have an agreement with that landscaper to do all of this work, and we find out all of a sudden that they're using a subcontractor to do the chemicals. We don't have an agreement with that subcontractor. So if the subcontractor does something that causes injury or damage, and there's a claim filed and the association gets sued, because we don't have a direct relationship with that subcontractor, the association finds itself having to seek a defense from its own insurance carrier. However, if we have the proper documentation with that subcontractor, we can then require or demand that the subcontractor's insurance carrier provide the association with a defense. So COI stands for a certificate of insurance. When you go to an insurance broker, not the insurance carrier, but to the broker, and you say, hi, I need to have a COI because I am providing services for the following association. That broker is going to provide that certificate of insurance. When you look at the top of the certificate, it has certain language in there that says this is basically not proof that there is insurance for that particular contractor. The only way you'll ever know if you really want to do a deep dive is you have to get the policy from that contractor's insurance carrier and then read through that. And we all know with insurance policies how long they can be. But we're trying to tell our association clients, because most of them think, oh, I got a COI, I'm good. You're not necessarily good. When it comes to major vendors that we see time and time again in this industry, if they're a major player and they've been in the business for a long time, I know they have insurance, so I'm not that concerned. It's when they start using subcontractors that I've never heard about, or maybe I've heard a little bit about them, I want an endorsement. It's important to get an endorsement because an endorsement comes from the insurance carrier itself. It doesn't come from the insurance broker. And we've seen a number of episodes over the years that insurance brokers will just submit and provide any type of a writing, whether it was true or not. So there's been episodes where the carriers wouldn't provide coverage because their claiming is that their agent didn't have the right to issue that COI. People need to know that insurance is hard. When you look at these policies, it's daunting, the amount of pages that one has to read, and most folks don't read through these pages. They're filled with what they're going to cover, and then they have exclusions everywhere. The issue is, while we understand that the normal layperson shouldn't be in a position to review these things and or make sure that items and or services are properly insured, that's what your attorney is for. Your attorney should be able to tell you about the risk, help you to decide if the risk is worthwhile transferring, and if you're willing to pay for the due diligence, have that attorney express an opinion in terms of what needs to be done. As an attorney, I think it's, of course, well worth it, but I think for all of those who are representing community associations, managing or otherwise, that's our job, is to do the best that we can to protect our clients.